end of an era, the comics club that formed to take over comic conventions in the late 1980s and morphed into the twice yearly extravaganza at the Twin City Fairgrounds is pulling the plug. And 2022 was the 50th year of comic conventions in Minnesota. There's been some dealer event every year since the first convention in a sheet metal union hall back in the fall of 1983. So, again, I remember back when I was selling off, was it Crazy Comics? I did that graveyard scene with all the comic shops that failed. And he came and he gave me a lot of shops that had closed like in the 70s and early 80s. And I know I gave the artwork that Dana did to Nick, because Dana did that artwork. And I think I have a picture of it somewhere. If not, I have the copy of it, because that was kind of the goodbye thing that I put on the thing. So anyways, I got that to read. I've got the MCBA's thing to read. And then I've got what's the name of that joint? The Minnesota Con guys wrote. So if you want, that can be kind of our segue to that. And then of course they have their last show April 8th. Which is what Kelly wanted. He just wanted to go 30 years and then pull the plug. But I was surprised to see them hook up with the Minnesota Con. So, and I have no clue if I'm doing a blowout on charity booth or not. After the last one, I don't think I want to. It's a lot of fucking work. I mean, much as the thought of having an extra $1,000 in my pocket is good, I also kind of miss, because, halfway through the day, all the guys disappear and go for lunch, and it might be fun just to bring the recorder and just, hey guys, let's do a con memory show that I can throw up on the podcast. So
there you go.
So anyways, I just want to make sure I got all my pages lined up. You can just erase the window row I had of all my comics to talk about.
Are you ready? Do, 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 do. Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And because Joe's not available...
What are you talking about? Along with this situation, I have to grade it all the day. How are you doing now to make something? Hang on a second. There we go. Slow it down a little bit. Oh, dang, it's still so long. Hang on one more time. There we go. That's a little bit. I'm still talking a little bit fast. Hang on a second. Let me one more time. There, how's that?
Oh, there.
I'm telling you.
Who is this?
This is Crazy Joe Ryder. No longer on the end of this wires. And how do you say it? The bits and wires we call the internet.
Wires we call the internet. And
because
the reason I do that is because. Well, the reason I do it is because way back in like the early 2000s, there was a senator in Alaska who said that, well,
did you say Alaska?
Yeah, just a bunch of tubes and wires. It's not like a dump truck.
Well, that's the funny thing, because I'm no longer at the other end of tubes and wires, because I just got hooked up to high-speed internet via fiber. So I've got a long glass tube, not the first time, snaking into my house to a converter, which then goes to a wireless thing, which bounces off two other ones. So I got wireless all over me. And I had it clocked. I'm over 100 megabytes. So But I do got to admit, sometimes I get way too excited about it, and I just had to slow my speed down. Just for you Luddites that aren't catching up with me. But hey, how in the rat bastard pig biting world are you?
I'm half awake.
Which half? Don't answer.
The half that doesn't want to shovel all the snow that fell today.
Yeah. You know, we always talk about the weather, and we don't do much about it. Of course, you had one advantage because you work from home, right?
Yes.
And Chris decided to work from home today. The interweb disconnect was fairly painless because we made sure the wireless was up and running, the new high speed, and then we just unplugged the old modem. But we have a snowstorm that it's a snowstorm. It's nothing major. It's not a blizzard. It's just a Minnesota snowstorm. It's messing up the rest of the country. It sounds like South Dakota's shut down because of whiteout conditions. Ice down in Rochester, tornadoes farther south. It's the same storm that came through Reno, where my daughter lives. And they got tons of rain, followed by tons of snow, 3 to 5 feet in the valley, 4 to 8 feet up in the mountains. And that was like one of 3. It's so much snow that even the snow area said, guys, don't even try to come to us because the roads are shut down and we want to guarantee your safety. But I imagine by now they're up and running.
Well, the only reason I know how bad it is, Pulp Comics and Games closed today at 3.
Oh, yeah.
Mind's Eye closed at 3.
Pussies.
Hot Comics Jordan closed at 3. That's how I get my news. When comic shops say,
closed?
Hey, the weather's bad, don't come see us because we're closing.
And I gotta admit, when I had Hot Comics, first of all, it's Tuesday. Crazy Comics wasn't open, the little 500 square foot shop. But when I owned Hot Comics St. Paul, I stayed open. Usually, if you made it, I don't ever think there was a Tuesday you didn't make it.
No, because I had to make it into work.
Mm-hmm.
And I had kind of lied my way into a deal where when I got the job at American Express,
mm-hmm.
I told them that the group home I worked at had a meeting on Wednesday afternoons that I had to go to. So I sort of set myself up. I would come in a half hour early, stay a half hour late, boom, boom, boom. And then I could leave at noon. I didn't tell them that group home meeting ended in 1996.
If they wanted to know, they should have asked.
If they wanted to know, they should have called that group home.
Because I don't think
But they couldn't because it didn't exist anymore.
Hey, details. There's always a business record of businesses that failed if you dig deep enough. Government doesn't throw nothing away. I mean, seriously, I can go online and look at my profile on one of those sites, and I still get my address when I worked at Crazy Comics and owned Hot Comics. I remember during weird weather like this, now I would normally tell Mike, since they had to come in from far away, even Christy and some of the others, don't come in. I've got this covered. I don't want you to get stuck. If you want to pick up the extra hours, you can come in a different day. Most of the time they didn't. And I even remember calling Pat Gruber once after I bought the shop from him, or was in, we had an arrangement to do it. And I'd just, I'd call and tell him, oh, dude, that ride to work today. He goes, yeah, I know what I mean, man. It took me like an hour and a half to get to downtown Minneapolis. I said, yeah, it took me 10 minutes to get to my house to the shop. And he would just say, thank you, Ryder. I only lived like 3 miles around the lake. Even the bad day where it was, 28 below or something before they adjusted the wind chill. So I think we did $4.95, one candy bar and one pack of Magic. And you were there. We just sat and got ready for comics and watched pro wrestling.
Yep.
I think the only day I can recall closing, there was the time when the tornado formed over our shop and went into Oakdale and caused some real damage. I just remember I was with Dana. We were out garage sailing, and I saw severe weather was coming, and she really freaks at severe weather. And I said, well, Dana, I think bad weather's coming. Do you want to come here or go to the shop? Well, she had to go to the shop.
Well, of course.
She loved little Mike. And, of course, when we got there, there were like 2 customers, Mike, and all I remember is looking out the window and seeing debris flying, kind of just floating in a straight line, and thinking to myself, hey, that looks a lot like tornado, but it's not spinning. Well, yeah, it was. It was just way far out. A lightning bolt hit across the street. There was a rickety sign that like fell into the Dairy Queen parking lot. And there was nobody in the Dairy Queen parking lot. I think we had locked the doors to keep the wind from sucking it out, which should have been the second clue it was a tornado. In the meantime, Dana was in the middle of the shop with the guy's girlfriend, and she was scared, but eventually, I think I just told Mike, and Casey might have been working there at the time, I don't remember. I just told him, go home, there's no power, and I can't run a business without power. A few customers came by, and I said, I can give you your comics. We can just write up what you did, and you can pick them up later. And most of them said, no, I'll just stop back tomorrow. About 5 o'clock, I know the ladies at the video store left. And so that gives a clue, because that was before, or was it Carol? It had to have been, I don't know, whoever was there. Maybe it was a hair salon. Whoever was in that shop between me and where the hobby shop was that Carol and Ron ran. And then I look in the back, and there's a light glowing. It's not on because I turned all the lights off because I didn't want the circuit breakers to blow. I called that the Spirit of Jack Kirby light because it never turned off the rest of the time I owned the shop. And I flipped the lights on, and oh my God, it's working. Everything's on. So I turned the lights on, opened up. Mike went home. Chris came by, got Dana. So that was kind of a partial closure. I think I had a few snow days, but I don't recall them. Most of the time, I would just tell the boys, stay home because you're coming in from Wisconsin, you're coming from Grove. I'll cover it. Don't worry about it. Forget about it. But see how I knew it was going to be bad, because I went out, I did one drive out to get some Arby's because I got to have a reason to go somewhere. And as and I got the cop car. Those things are built to run through snow. The roads kind of suck. Just got to watch out for people, front wheel drives that like get stuck at traffic lights. But, as I was driving, I noticed a truck loaded with Vicks Vapor Rub had overturned on the highway. Amazingly, there's been no congestion there for 8 hours. Oh, I got a ton of them. Thank you, Travis. You didn't think I'd use that one right away, did you?
Well, since it's been a long time since we've actually just talked.
Mm-hmm.
Talking
and it's
comics.
A new year.
A few things I wanted to bring up that have happened in comics over the past couple of months that we haven't had a chance to talk about, chew the fat about, go on and on and on and on and on about.
Wait,
first,
this wasn't the 3rd annual Cory Strode Memorial Luncheon get-together, was it?
No.
Well, go ahead, hit the video. Or hit the audio. All right, this is what the 3rd annual Cory Strode Memorial Luncheon.
Maybe monthly. Annual means it's every 12 months.
Yeah, but Cory's not here. What the hell does Cory care? That's been
using my business etiquette.
We can't change it. So anyways,
we've already got
meeting.
It's in the name. We've already got the copyright for the name.
Meeting sounds like there's an agenda. We're just here. So, and normally we talk comics. What?
Well, there is an agenda.
Quiet. You're just here because you know that.
Yeah. Same reason.
So here's the question. Since he's not here, first, this is Cory. Cory's representation by an empty chair. What's the first time you recall meeting Cory?
Meeting Cory?
Yeah. I think you and I, it's the same thing. Cory will tell you about a phone call I gave him, but we were always told we joined the MCBA at the time, And we're always told, oh, this Cory, if he comes back, Cory, if he comes back, like he was a mythical second coming. And he had dropped out.
I don't recall that part.
Well, no, it was every time we were at the meetings. We were way over on Annie's over in Dickeytown, and they'd be like, well, Cory used to do this, and Cory used to do that. You know, and you and I were there because we were like, well, you guys are spectacularly unresponsive to any retailer concerns. And then, of course, when we became the retailer reps, we realized, yeah, they're a bunch of whiny bitches anyway. I want to do this. How come I didn't sell much? Because you overpriced your shit. Anyways, that's where I think you and I first saw Cory, actually, at one of the meetings when he showed up.
I actually don't remember my first time. Was he levitated or glowing or anything?
He showed up. He showed up just about as often as he shows up for these. So.
Yeah, about the same time. Yeah.
No, I used to see him more often because I played poker with the guy for years. So. Yeah.
Okay, well, we're talking about the meeting in specific, not poker.
What do you recall your first?
I just remember him walking around the con when we were trying to sell our crap, saying, "I'm the best dressed man in comic books." I'm thinking, with that shit on? That's why I remember.
That truth hurts.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying,
okay, our resident cut up Steve.
Purple only looks good on Willie Miller. Yeah, it wasn't what he was wearing, it was the size of what he was wearing.
It was the vest.
It could have been a little bit.
Yeah. How about you, Steve? What do you?
Tailored, yeah.
When do you recall your first?
Probably at the convention, but then poker. I mean, we played a long time together.
Got a lot of poker. Now we have a guest today since Butch bailed on us. Say hello to the audience.
Hi, I'm Evelyn. I'm Cory's foster daughter.
Yeah. So the question is, do you have
any questions?
Okay, so what was your first time meeting him?
I was 14 years old.
Whoa, hey, this is a whole family show. We can't be.
I work for a large corporation. I better leave.
Yeah, I'm TSA. I'm scared him out of here.
Show me on this bear where he touched you.
No. I dated his son, Mike. And the boy.
Who's been on
he has a name. Podcast. His name is Mike. But yeah, he and I dated. We met at it was a teenage emo kid college, like, I don't know, like it was a gathering of some kind where a bunch of emo kids got together and hung out at a small bar where we weren't allowed to actually drink. We just got non-alcoholic drinks. That's where I met Mike. And then a couple weeks later, we went to his house and I met Cory, and I remember us talking about comics for like an hour. Cory told Mike, if you ever break up with her, I'm going to be very sad.
Well, that explains a lot.
And then what was it?
He eventually did.
Mike and I think, dated for 4 months, but I still kept coming around. And it was just to hang out with Cory because I didn't really have like much of a father figure in my life at that time. And so I would go over, we'd watch wrestling, and Mike, obviously it's not just some 14-year-old going to hang out with some 40-year-old man. Mike was still there. We were still friends.
Which in Chaska isn't as rare as you'd think. But
so I would go over, we'd watch wrestling, we'd read comics, we'd talk comics.
The deep south of Minnesota.
Jesus. But yeah, so that's where I met Cory, and I still kept coming around. And years and years and years later, I lived with Cory for 6 years through college, and because I didn't have anywhere else to go, and my college was close to where he lived, so he just said, "Yeah, come on over."
Cool.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that about Cory.
Yeah, I lived with him for 6 years.
He has some nice spots. That's all we're going to say. Now I'm going to turn this off because we're going to talk comics. Oh, if Cory doesn't post this on a podcast, I will. I'm sorry, you were going to say something? Yeah, I see Evelyn came even.
The multiverse is back over at DC.
Oh, I haven't read number 7 yet. Well, we've known that was coming anyways.
Well, and Mark Waid even went on to Facebook to say, what are all the universes at DC? No one here knows.
Huh.
He actually had to ask fans to go through, all right, what are all the different DC universes that have been mentioned since, since Rebirth?
Or New 52, or?
No, since Rebirth.
Well, New 52 had Power Girl and Huntress come over from another Earth, which was to be Earth 2, and eventually they got around to it because they had an actual Earth 2 comic book, I believe.
Right, but Rebirth kind of hit a soft reboot on that. So he was like, we just want to know, we got Multiverse that Grant Morrison did, but there's been stuff since then.
Shocked.
Where people just here's another universe without clearing it with the higher editorial, just the regular editor.
Well, really they make as many multiverses as they want since they're not tied to the 52 thing. But I know for a while there was a specific 52 because I just remember some characters blundering into a universe and killing it.
Yeah.
They were never brought to trial for that, which I thought was they just blundered onto the next universe. But they actually had a list, like the monitors were following these 52 universes, and each one.
Those are the one in Grant Morrison's Multiversity.
Yes, that's where I remember that from, and it was cool. I liked it.
And then people just started to add more
and more.
So now Mark Waid has written up the list of the universes that are known.
Is that on his Facebook page?
No, it's in a comic he just put out.
Oh, which one?
Oh, gosh.
It wasn't the New Age or something, was it?
Might have been.
I'm still.
I haven't got it yet from DCB Service, so.
Okay, so I probably haven't got it. I wanted to interject because I talked at Festivus about my shit getting ripped off. I got all but like 4 books replaced. I haven't gotten to read any of them though, and it just is taking me. I've got them all set up, ready to read and stuff.
You mean you did not bring all your comics up when you went up north?
No, but I did buy some. But we'll talk about that when we get there.
You having a spouse and everything. The one time I went up north, I brought a big old box of comics and I sat by a fireplace where I'm sitting by the fireplace and right outside my window was the lake. Mm-hmm. And every so often a deer would kind of come up and look at itself in the window because they were those windows.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be sitting there and all of a sudden it'd be, oh.
No, when I went north, I should work my way backwards because I've done a number of things, and like for New Year's Eve day, I had to work New Year's, so I had to behave myself. We went to go see a production of Beauty and the Beast, the Broadway musical. Damn you, Disney, I got my money again. Not really. Tickets kind of fell to us. This is down at the Ordway. We saw the closing show, and it's not something I probably would have gone out of my way to see, but it was phenomenal. And it was amazing just how many of the actors were local. And in the role we were in, there was a gentleman, his son played Chip. You've seen Beauty and the Beast? You know who the characters are?
Yes.
Okay, I haven't. Never saw the animated, never saw the Emma Watson live. So although I know the songs and I know the characters and whatever, I didn't really know the story. I mean, I understood, he made a curse and everybody got turned into stuff and blah, blah, blah. So Chip was, I believe it was Cameron Graham or Tate Ashcraft, because it was a 9-year-old kid. So they're not allowed to work every day because of whatever rules. But I think he said it was his grandson was Chip. And that was kind of cool because then Chip's mom was up front and he took the seat in back, which was cool. And we were kind of neat because it didn't sell out. So we had a couple extra ones. The lady behind me, her son was playing, there's Salt and Pepper Shaker dancers during some of the musical numbers. He was the salt shaker. And it was easy to tell who was who because salt shaker was white, pepper was black. But I'm telling you, the only other Broadway show I've seen was Spider-Man Come In From the Dark. And it didn't really have a showstopper. But this had what you would call genuine showstoppers. The first one was the music Gaston. And the audience, oh my Lord, we loved it. We just cheered, and the actors just held their place until they decided to move. I mean, we had to have given them a 30 second, 1 minute applause. It was just amazing. And then a little bit later, Be Our Guest was another showstopper where we cheered so hard that they just waited and just let them have it. They a Broadway actor's got to love when the audience reacts to things, when they laugh at the right spots, when they applaud. And the music was amazing. The actors who did the Belle and the Beast and Mrs. Potts and Gaston himself, they were phenomenal. The orchestra was great. It was just a blast. I mean, down at the Ordway is downtown St. Paul. There's so much there. It's just amazing. And I know there's some other plays coming up, including My Fair Lady, which will round out their season that we may go see. And I was getting all excited because they had something for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And I thought, they're coming to a small place like the Ordway? And then I had to look up and said, no, they're going to US Bank Stadium, the football stadium with 50,000 people, which, by the way, is a terrible place for acoustics. And then I thought, that can't be right. They can't be going to both places. And then I looked closer. Oh, Red Hot Chili Pipers. And all bagpipe. I still might go see that. I don't know. That night, we went over to a friend's house, played a new game. Kray, have you ever heard about Crabs Adjust Humidity?
No.
Well, you've heard Crimes Against Humanity, right?
Yes.
Same game.
Cards Against Humanity.
Yeah. This one is Crabs Adjust Humidity, same game. For example, one of the cards you could choose is Michelle Bachmann furiously masturbating with a coat hanger. Yes, definitely a card stopper. Same mentality, same game. So it was fun. I got to tell you, though, entering New Year's, you know how you get a headache from too much drink?
Yes.
I was in a food coma because we ate amazingly. My friend made this gorgeous beef stew. The night before, we went to Crooner's Supper Club, which is up, I believe. Let's see if I can find where the heck that was. Nope, not right. Oh, there it is. Up in Fridley or Northeast Minneapolis, and had a gorgeous salmon dinner. We were there to see Aaron Schwab and Jay Fuchs perform. I've seen Aaron Schwab on the Jason Show locally, but to see her in person singing, utterly amazing. She has the voice and the talent. She's like the Twin Cities Bette Midler. That's not an understatement. They're on the interwebs. You can look them up. And what's fun to see them, usually when she's on TV, it's just Aaron performing, but Jay sings, he performs. They're constantly trying to crack each other up. It was just a blast. That was kind of my wife's Christmas present because we've decided instead of getting things for each other, we would get experiences, which, again, we're older people, so that makes sense. Doesn't mean I'm not buying comics and shit. We'll get to that at Geeking. But before that, we did go up north. We went to a little place just north of Grand Marais. And the big thing we did, which was really cool, is we revisited, my wife and I anyways, Grand Portage, which is not the farthest north state park, but it's right on the tippy corner, the edge of Minnesota that kind of points out. And the park on one side is Minnesota, on the other side is Canada, literally 20 feet apart across a shallow stream. Wee bit cold this time of year. It was snowing. The falls were frozen. I posted pictures on Facebook. Again, my Facebook's wide open, which I'll complain about a bit when we get to freaking. See, I still got that foreshadowing sense. But I've got pictures of the falls that way. I got pictures of the summertime somewhere else in my feed because Chris and I went earlier this year. And I'm going to do a side-by-side of the two because it's just gorgeous. I'm telling you, Cory, if you get a chance to take a ride up that far north, you do got to check it out. because it's just fabulous. The place I used to go there, because there was somebody at one of the antique stores that was selling comic books, is no longer there. So that's fine. But we did stop at Drury Lane, which, you pardon me here, it's on 12 Wisconsin Street, downtown Grand Marais, and it's the only bookstore there, and I love to stop there and pick up some stuff, and I'll talk about that in Geeking. But we also stopped at the Voyager Brewery Club 2 nights in a row and had 2 fabulous meals. I'm telling you, I finally today, I'm out of my food coma. And we're doing this on the 3rd of July. I'm sorry, January. So it was a crazy holiday season, a lot of fun. I worked Christmas. I missed the whole Southwest meltdown thing that was in the news, which really wouldn't have affected us because if they ain't flying, they ain't going through security. So not really a concern for us. Although I do recall somebody was telling me the day that everything went bad, they made an announcement because Southwest canceled everything. And they just said, the people at the counter, we cannot help you. Please do not come to the counter. You need to find your checked luggage. It is down at the other end in our luggage area. Call the 800 number for rebookings and refunds. Boy, Southwest, you got it was funny when I got home. This is how out of touch I was. I got home. I didn't realize Buffalo had a killer snowstorm. And I didn't realize just how bad the Southwest meltdown was. So I started watching the news backwards. And it was, yep, all the 90% of the shutdowns or canceled flights are Southwest. And 37 people it might be 40 now, passed away in Buffalo. And then I went backwards. And by the time at the beginning, it was like, yeah, bad snowstorm hitting Buffalo. Oh, and by the way, Christmas meltdown starting, all these airlines canceling flights. And it's kind of weird watching the news backwards. You should try it sometime if you want to record it. So that brings me up to date pretty much. I think, yeah, I got to tell you, anything else I did before that is a blur. I think I bitched about it on the Festivus episode. And I also, in our little piece together, and again, I got to give a kudos out to Cory for piecing together podcasts and keeping it rolling, because I would just send out whatever I was going to talk about, and then you would cut and paste together. I have no idea how it sounded, but I'll be listening to those when I get back to work. It's like, hey, maybe this is good. Cory's isolation's complete. You just mail him what you want him to talk about. How about you? How was your, if you want to go backwards or forwards, how was your Christmas, your Festivus, your New Year's?
I went to a Comic-Con, kind of, sort of.
What?
That Most Wanted, which used to be Captain Jack's, and then became they would set up at this warehouse that was also a dance studio, by the way. They had another sale. It was like the week after Black Friday. Was it? Or was it that weekend? No, it was the week after. It was the week after.
Because I couldn't go because I can't get weekends off normally.
Yeah. They did not have it in the big room. And I looked, and that big room was just full of dance stuff. So they must have just had a show or something, because it was costumes and sets and everything. So that entryway you come into, that's where they were set up, which was way too small.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they had a whole bunch of stuff from the last, I would say, year. They had 2 tables of that, and then they had 1.5 tables of the old stuff. And after a little bit, I just gave up on the new stuff, because that's where everybody was crowding, and it was, here's the first 10 issues of a DC series. 1, 2, 4, 7, 9, 10. Okay, I can't get I can't get them in a row, so I'm not going to bother. And then, here's a random issue of this comic. And then maybe you'd find another random issue of it 3 boxes later and go, oh, did I see that? And no, forget it. So I just dug through the old stuff, and I got one full short box and half another. And then my foster daughter, Evelyn, showed up, and she dug through comics. I even put a few pictures up on the Facebook saying, look, I trained her well, because there she is digging through long boxes, looking for Sandman stuff, Hellboy stuff, and Lobo. And she got a nice little stack out of it too. But just to go through the boxes they had for their older stuff took about 2.5 hours, which was good because I'd planned, okay, that's the only thing I'm doing this weekend. So I'm not going to rush myself. I'm not going to go, oh crap, I got to go. Nope. Going to just dig through. No trade paperbacks. No bundles. And they said, oh, this is all the inventory. But I noticed that every so often they'd go into a back room and come out with another box. And then there's been an announcement since then, Joe.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this.
Most Wanted Comics is starting up a store in Bloomington. Now, Captain Jack's was in Bloomington. I doubt it'll be in the same place, because one of the reasons they left was that rent had gotten too high. But there are a number of retail places that have kind of crapped out on that Lindale on 98th Street.
Mm-hmm.
There have been a lot of retail stores that have closed, including that big used CD, used DVD head shop that there used to be there. I think it was called Discworld or Disco Round or something like that. But they were a huge store. They crapped out about a year ago. And I don't drive by there very often, but when I do, I see nothing has moved into that place. So usually when a retail shop in a strip mall has been empty for a year, they start cutting the rent.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you get a lot of empty spaces in a strip mall, people start thinking, oh, this is a lower end one. Or they start getting check cashing places and the kind of scummy pawn shops that you don't want to go to unless you're really desperate. So they tend to, we need the people. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah,
so
I just was looking on their Facebook page. And they haven't announced. They just said it's coming in January. Well, it's January. We're waiting.
And then for most of December, my schedule at the group home's kind of changed so that I have every other weekend off.
Ooh.
So I don't know if it'll last. And it's funny, too, because like next week, it's like, oh, is there any way we could get you to work more? Is there any way we could get you to work more? Then the week after that, yeah, we don't need you at all. So I have like the whole week off. I don't have to go in any evenings. I will say that there are a number of staff there who have been grabbing a bunch of hours because school is out. College is out. So we'll see what happens. But actually, I had a lot of spare time over the holidays. Christmas? I worked Christmas at the group home. We only had 2 clients there, both of whom are wheelchair bound. So basically, I just made breakfast and lunch and watched TV and read books with them. And the rest of the time I was here, I got a lot of TV in, a lot of football, a lot of wrestling, a lot of New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm very happy about New Japan Pro Wrestling. But also watched all of Star Trek Lower Decks 3rd season.
It's out?
Well, yeah, that was this is the 3rd season.
Wait.
It came out, I think it ended in like September or October.
So I'm waiting for the 4th.
Right.
Oh,
you know what made me
panicking.
happiest about that?
What was that?
No cliffhanger ending.
Yes.
Because their cliffhanger endings have all been crap. Then I watched all of Star Trek Prodigy because the second half of that series dropped.
What do you think of that? I watched the first episode. It's interesting, and it's one of those, I get around to it. But every so often I see things like, oh, Admiral Janeway is here. Not that probably, oh, Chakotay showed up. And I'm like, well, okay, kind of getting me excited to watch it. But I just haven't I did like the first episode. What do you think of it as a whole?
Now that I've watched all 20 episodes, the first 10 are very different from the back 10. But the thing that I like about it is, it's a Nickelodeon show. The animation's great. The animation is, because, well, there were times at the group home I had to watch kids animation, and kids animation right now is really like butt awful. But the animation for this is really good. I like the characters. I like the setting. It is very much, I think the best way to describe it is, it's a kid's introduction to Star Trek.
That's what I had heard, and that's how it struck me.
Yeah.
It struck me very Star Wars-ish.
The characters are kind of Star Wars-y.
But I also enjoyed...
That completely changes in the back 10.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it's set up like a kid program in that everybody learns a lesson. But unlike a lot of kids' programs, when they learn the lesson, it's not completely forgotten. The characters are growing as they do it. And it's very much an introduction to Star Trek. My feeling is it's a good kids' program that some adults will like because of all the Star Trek lore.
Yeah, and that's what really I thought was interesting, because I was reading some of what happened. Again, spoilers, I don't care for a show I may or may not watch, but it intrigued me. And it's because they're not full hour episodes, at least I don't think they are.
Nope.
They're, I could, like today when I got home with Arby's, I could have sat down and watched one and then continue on with whatever I was doing. I didn't. I watched Whose Line It Is Anyways that I've had sitting on my DVR for a while.
Which has been canceled, by the way.
Or will come back if they think they need it. I think they're just shedding, because isn't CW up for sale?
CW has been sold.
Okay. Because I've been watching it via Straczynski, because is trying to do a reboot for Babylon 5.
Yeah, that's not going to be happening on the CW.
Yeah. And that's what, as things were changing, I was told to work on it. I said, no, we were told not this season. And yeah, and then, like you said, it's going to happen, but not there.
Yeah,
who bought it? Do we know?
Yes, it's one of those companies that owns a whole bunch of UHF stations. And the first thing they're doing is, we're going to cut costs. I imagine that within 2-3 years, it's just going to be
UPN, WP,
like My Network, where it's okay. It's or Ion.
Oh yeah.
Where it's okay. Here, our prime time is syndicated shows, but all the stations will have the same syndicated shows. Although one thing that's really odd, a lot of the CW stations have picked up WOW Women of Wrestling, which I cover for CW Insider.
That was the thing that shocked me, because I was watching the ad, I flipped through the ads, but I saw WOW pop up, and I'm like, I didn't even know it was on this channel. So I'm going to have to set my DVR to catch that now.
And it's actually doing okay. For a syndicated show, it's getting around 500,000 viewers, which, let's be honest, that's pretty good.
Well, move it to Monday night and go live. Seemed to work for everybody else.
Oh, they can't go live. Once you watch it, you'll understand why.
Yeah.
That thing is highly produced. And, I cover it. Some of the wrestlers are okay, but a lot of them are not. There's a lot of, okay, they know 3 moves, and they're going to do those 3 moves. And there are some times where you could tell that they've edited it, or it would have been on Botchamania. So I wonder if they're going to move more toward that, where it's okay, here's this syndicated show we're going to drop in. And the thing that's weird about Whose Line is that's got to be one of the cheapest network shows to produce.
Oh, yeah.
Period. The only one that's cheaper has got to be Penn and Teller's Fool Us.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's in their theater. The prize is they get to perform at Penn and Teller's theater.
That's why it's like it may come back. The guys that have done the improv, I've seen Colin Mockery and Ryan Stiles and a few of the other semi-regulars tour through the Twin Cities doing their own version. So it's still up and around. I was just a little disappointed, and I imagine it's because he's busy, that they never did get a chance to have Drew Carey come in as a guest. I think that would have been a fun throwback.
I think it would be fun, but the problem with Drew Carey is, boy, he loves that Price is Right schedule.
Yeah, I
he
can
talks
imagine.
About how, it's, the 5 shows a week, but we do reruns in the summer. We usually will take, I think he said that they did the entire season in like 2 or 3 months.
Oh, yeah. And then more importantly, that'll give him time to work on stuff I know he really wants to do, like Geppetto 2.
And his Friday night show on Little Steven's Underground Garage, where he's a disc jockey and plays some music he likes.
That should be our next step. Of course, we don't have the rights to the music we like, but, details.
And believe it or not, we're almost at an hour, Joe. So one of the things I wanted to do, there is a list that was put out a couple of days ago of the comic creators who had passed away over this last year. So I did want to highlight those. And the first is not so much a comic creator, although he has written a few comics here and there, but he's mostly a fan, Lou Mogan. He was a historian of comic books. He had a special love for the Golden Age superheroes. He wrote tons and tons of articles everywhere, including, back in the old fanzines, back in Amazing Heroes, them on the internet. And he's also written some comics here and there. Lately, he has been showing up in the Warrant magazines, Shudder and their Vampirella knockoff. Vampirus Carmilla, I think it's called. So he's written for Marvel, Heroic, Lucky, Eclipse, Claypool, and others. He passed away the end of last year, and he has been ill for quite a while. He's talked about how illness was slowing him down. He passed away, but here's the list. Aileen Kaminsky-Crumb, Vic Carabata, Carlos Pacheco, who drew for the X-Men for years and years and years and years. I think, didn't he draw DC versus Marvel?
I don't recall.
I believe he drew that as well. Kevin O'Neill, whose art, we talked about him when he passed. His art was so disturbing that the Comics Code said, you can't clean it up. We're never going to approve his art. He came from 2000 AD, most known for Nemesis the Warlock and the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen with Alan Moore. Kim Jung-gi, who I had not seen much of his art, but he was one of those artists that when he passed, comic artists went on and on and on about how much they loved his work. Tom Palmer, who inked for Marvel from the 60s till present. Alan Grant, who also worked on 2000 AD, wrote Batman in the 90s, never stopped writing for 2000 AD, has written more Judge Dredd stories than anyone. Kazuki Takahashi, a manga artist. Tim Sale, who is probably best known for the work he did with Jeff Loeb over on the Batman Last Halloween and at Marvel with the Captain America White, Daredevil Yellow, those books. Everett Peck, whose art I did not know. George Perez. Neil Adams, Mutu Abiko, another manga artist, Gary Leach, best known for all of his work on British comics. I don't think he did a whole lot of American comics, but if you are an American comic fan, you probably know him best from the early stories of Miracle Man. Tom Veitch, who was mostly an online journalist but had worked in comics. Ian Kennedy, another 2000 AD artist. Brian Augustine, who was a writer and editor at DC, was at one of our conventions for the Troll Lords reunion, because he's the one who kind of put all that together. Jean-Claude Marise, who worked on European comics, as did Michelangelo Leneve. Those two, whose works I don't know all that well. All but a couple were in their 60s, and it's so hard for me to fathom that the artists who were just breaking in the 70s when we started reading are in their late 60s, early 70s, till you remember, well, we're in our 50s, so if they were 10 to 15 years older than us, every year we lose more and more of the people who have worked in comics from the Silver and Bronze Age. So again, when you go to conventions, thank them. Take the time, buy the stuff they have at their table, but mostly just thank them. Thank them for what they did. George Perez often talked about how much fun he had at conventions, because people would just come up and thank him and say how much they loved his art, and it meant the world to him. And you may think as a fan, oh, everybody goes up to George Perez and says how much they love his art. It never gets old. Somebody telling you they love your work never gets old. Even Howard Chaykin, unless you're going to praise him for the work he did on Star Wars, then he's going to growl at you.
Although he was nice to my daughter when she brought him a copy of Star Wars #6 to sign.
How old was he?
Or was
she?
Oh, she was little Tyke Holly.
Yeah.
Little kids. Yeah, he's not heartless. He's not going to growl at a kid.
He'll growl
He didn't even growl at me for bringing him over.
Oh, I've seen Howard Chaykin at conventions where he growls at people. I think the first time I saw him at the Chicago Comic Con in the 80s, he was bellowing at people. Oh, he was in a mood. And then I came up with American Flag #1, and here I am. This is my first big time convention. I'm, some small town hick, still got dirt, still got hillbilly dirt on my shoes. I go, I love this. I love the storytelling. I love how you do. And he actually jumped up on the table and said, "See this guy? This guy gets it."
Oh, brilliant.
He vaguely remembers that. But of course, he did stuff like that all the time when he was younger. Me, it was the first time I'd ever seen anything like that. I'm like, oh my God. Scared to death. They also was an announcement about the MCBF conventions. We're going to go into much more detail about it in a future episode, because I think 30 years is how long it will run. Although I don't think that's accurate.
No, it is.
No, we started in 1988.
Oh, I know. I'm looking at what Joel Thingvall wrote. He said, this is the end of an era.
Right.
The comic club that formed to take over comic conventions in the late 1980s and morphed into the twice yearly extravaganzas at the state fairgrounds, pulling the plug in 2023.
That would be 35 years.
22 was the 50th year of the comic conventions in Minnesota. There were some dealer events every year since the first convention in a sheet metal union hall way back in the fall of 1973. We're talking local grown, put together clubs.
I think the MCBA/MCBF, that's 35 years, not 30. Because remember, the first show was in 88. Which was 35 years ago.
Well, if you would show up to the fucking shows and tell them that, maybe Kelly would continue it. But no, you've retired from conventions.
It's not my fault.
Forgot that on Festivus.
It's not my fault people can't do math.
Yes.
But I think in a future episode, we'll talk a lot more about it and share stories and stuff. But for now, before I do the ads, I do want to talk about a new service we are offering.
Uh-oh.
If you are an artist, a writer, a musician, a creative person, somebody with a podcast, somebody with a blog, we don't care. Send in an MP3, please no more than 60 seconds, unless it's really entertaining. And we'll give you free advertising. And the reason I'm doing this is because Peter Rios, who does the Daily Rios, was part of Comic's first major podcast, the Comic Geek Speak, has for years told comic podcasters, hey, send me a promo and I'll run it. He runs promos on his podcast. I think we should start doing that too. So if you're selling art on the internet, if you're somebody who sets up at conventions and sells tchotchkes.
If you're a brand new shop opening them up in Bloomington.
Anything. Just send us an MP3. We will run it. But for now, here's our ad. Our newest sponsor is NordVPN. Let's be honest, if you're out on the internet, you need a VPN to protect you. There's all sorts of things going on the internet where people can track you. You could accidentally download a keylogger, all sorts of things. NordVPN gives the best security possible. It has a password manager which generates complex passwords, syncs across all your devices, stores your notes and credit card information. It also gives you 10 gigabytes of private cloud storage, secure files that backs up your data automatically. But the main thing it gives you is peace of mind. It gives you peace of mind when you're out on the internet, when you're streaming, when you're playing games, when you're listening to podcasts like this one. It gives you safety anywhere at any time. It protects your online activity. You get full access to all content. And if you use the link go.nordvpn.net sh3ku, it'll take you to where you can get a great deal for a 1-month plan, a 2-year plan, a 1-year plan. They are our newest sponsor. We're happy to have them. And if you would like to sponsor something here at any of the podcasts on the Solitaire Rose Network, you can. Just email me, solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks. And here's all the other podcasts I do. The Solitaire Rose Radio Network is currently on a pause, basically because COVID-19 has made it so that I have to work a lot of extra hours at both jobs. But you can still go and listen to my other podcasts. Now, you're probably listening to Crazy Comics and Stories, which is the main podcast. But on this same feed, KRAYZCOMIX, is Solitaire Rose Radio, the solo radio podcast that I do. I've done interviews, I've done short stories, I've done all sorts of things, and you can get to it right here on this same feed. I also do a podcast called Novelcast, where I take the novels I've written and turn them into free audiobooks. That's over at novels.solitairerose.com. Dangerous Dan Moore and I, and of course Wolfie B. Bad, give you bad advice over at badadvice.solitairerose.com. You send in your questions, and we give you the aforementioned bad advice. And then myself and Adam Vermillion from For the Love of Comics do the Fantastic Forecast at fantasticforecast.solitairerose.com, where we go through the issues of the Fantastic Four, 4 issues at a time, to give the plot and commentary on each issue. That's not all. Yes, I'm crazy. I still, over at pwinsiderelite.com, every week on Wednesday, do a recap of the latest episode of AEW Dynamite. I write up what happened, and then myself and Anthony Pyrus will do an audio. Now, you can only listen to the audio, if you remember, at pwinsiderelite.com, and if you're a wrestling fan, you should be, where we then break down the episode, talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, give it a grade, and let you know if you should have watched that episode. Those are the other podcasts here at the Solitaire Rose Radio Network. Thanks. And since we're getting back into the swing of things, next time we will have the retro reviews.
Oh, maybe. It depends, because we got two things we got to get through. Previews is here. And I want for 2023 for us to do previews as close to the first as we can, because I thought it was ridiculous, and it wasn't our fault, that we do it like on the last week. And because now we're recording, actually I'll ask you, this is kind of a behind the scenes stuff for though. Now that we're recording Monday, when do you think the shows will drop?
Yeah, it depends. I'm hoping to get them out the week we record them.
Okay. Could be Wednesday, could be Saturday, depending on...
No, it'll never be a Saturday.
Never Saturday?
Never Saturday, because that is the lowest internet usage there is. But I like to have them on Wednesday. However, it's going to depend on circumstances. It may be Thursday.
Because I already know there's a Monday coming up. I ain't going to be around. Snap.
Oh, how dare you? How dare you?
But on the other hand, if you're no longer sucking up every hour on the group home, maybe we can get some of these long dormant podcasts going, like the one we started about the Lost Universe, or maybe we'll go back to the what
Master of Kung Fu.
Yes, Master. I was trying to think of the name of it. Master of Kung Fu. Many Hands of Fuju. But we'll talk off podcast, because of course that's boring people.
You know what? We never give up on them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely not.
Freaking and geeking, Joe. What are you freaking on?
I am freaking on a couple real life things going on. I was sad to hear about Jeremy Renner being in a serious snowplowing accident. I guess we're finding out more what happened. He was moving snow. Remember that snowstorm I mentioned about Dana?
Yes.
He's in Reno. And I told Dana, when he gets better, go get an autograph. You're cute. He'll do it. Anyways, he was moving snow from his driveway on Saturday, and he got run over by his own snowcat, which is a device to remove snow. After the machinery started to roll away when he was not in the driver's seat, he was injured very seriously trying to get back in. They were talking where you always worry when I hear he's critical but stable. Anyways, he has since posted on his Instagram, "Thank you for all your kind words. I'm too messed up right now to type, but I send love to you all." So he is appreciating the outpouring. And I mean, I was stunned. I was like, really, 2023? That's how you're going to do it? And then, of course, I was floored when I heard about NFL star Damar Hamlin collapsing on the field during the game. And his family, I guess he's still in critical condition. I watched the news a little bit before we came down. He's going in for a second surgery. His family members are deeply moved by the fan support. And then, of course, you get the dumb. I don't want to swear, but I'm going to. Asshole blankety people. Well, they kept the show going when Owen Hart fell and died. I don't see why the NFL had to stop. Really? That's your freaking takeaway? You're an embarrassment as a wrestling fan, as a football fan, and as a human being. But it just, oh gosh, there's just so much of that shit out there. I mentioned earlier, about keeping my Facebook page private or public. I keep it public. I don't care. I don't put nothing on there that somebody wants to confront me about. Don't care. Refute what I said. That's all I need. I've been known to take down posts. But this guy was, I think, God, I'm trying to think of the argument. It was just something about the Wednesday show. Are people, because people are doing the same thing they had when Emma Watson was Hermione in Harry Potter. She was growing up. She looks hot. Well, dude, she's not 18 yet. Well, in this case, the actress playing a 16-year-old girl is, I think she's 20, 21? And people are calling it out, and rightly they should. You know, she's playing a 16-year-old. You don't have to fetishize everything. I got on the wrong side of this guy's argument. He went on my Facebook page and he started to, well, look at what you watch. Big Top Models USA. And there was one other one. He goes, funny how everyone there is big-breasted, curvy children. And I responded, I said, first of all, I'm honored that you went as far as to go on my Facebook page to see what it is that I like to follow. Funny, you didn't mention anything about Dolly Parton or Christina Hendricks, because I follow them as well. Then again, the fact that you think these models are children is kind of creepy on your half. I would maybe not look at so much Japanese anime. So I was pretty upset about that, but then I thought, why should I care what this guy does? You want to look on my Facebook page, go for it. You know, mainly because I put a lot of cool photos up there. And if I got to tell you, I am so funny on Facebook, maybe not that much on the eBays. Speaking of closing, this is kind of a deep cut for those of you who want to go back. Oh, dang it. I lost the tab. Hang on, I'll find it. We, in one of our, was it a Black Friday run? Or were we just out geeking? Maybe it was a comic book day. No, the store closing in Richfield.
Oh, that was a free comic book day.
Okay. And, Robbinsdale. I'm sorry. It was just something that kind of, I saw on the news that it's probably one of the few, if not the only, video rental store, last of its kind in Twin Cities, preparing to close. And I know we spent a long time at it, and we talked a lot about it. And Butch had been there lots of times. I don't remember if the guy remembered Butch or not. But he's got over 50,000 movies on DVD, some on VHS. He's been running Video Universe since 1986. And probably the last one in the Twin Cities and among the few in Minnesota. And he's closing. It's just, he'd like to find a buyer, someone to take over. But I think it's just, he's in his upper 60s. Time not to get tethered down to something nonstop, which I understand, because having a retail store, you are tied to it. If you're not there and open, you got to pay someone to keep it open for you, or you lose on that money. I talked about originally retiring from TSA at 60, and then I thought, well, I'll open up one of these secondhand stores that we're loving. Not deal with new comics from Diamond, but just people are just dumping collections, old farts like me. And a lot of these guys I talk to, including people who do new stuff, like our friend Greg Ketterer at The Source, they are constantly getting in new stuff. And it's amazing the people that are just getting rid of stuff. Even like Paul Zaninsky over at Heroic Goods and Games on Minnehaha, same area. He said the same thing. My buddy up, he's going to kill me. Paul up in Remix, up in Forest Lake, same thing. He says, you wouldn't believe the people that are bringing in things, because there's a definite movement of getting rid of stuff. And again, I kind of talked about that in the beginning, where Chris and I are more prone to want to do experiences. But now that I'm going to stay at TSA till I'm 62, when I'm 62, I don't think I want to be tethered down to a store. I'm having fun doing the eBay thing. I'm going to miss doing Comic Cons, although doing the last one, that was a lot of freaking work. I forgot how much work that is. So I may not even be doing Weekend Warrior shows. I don't know what I'm going to do, but all I know is I probably won't connect into a retail store, because it's just a lot of work and you're there constantly. So I do understand that. Speaking of weird things going on in the comic industry, there is a new realm of speculators out there that I just don't get. Cory, what do you think the number one thing for our show is all about?
Our show?
Our show, our podcast.
Loving comics, man.
But we read them other blanketies.
Oh, yeah.
These guys want to press, clean, and slab them. LIC, and again, I look for comics online. I mean, I'll talk about the one comic I bought over my hey, where the hell did all my comics get ripped off to phase. But all I see are these guys, they like Ultimate Fallout number 4. Cory, tell the people what's big about Ultimate Fallout number 4.
First, Miles Morales.
And it was going slabbed upwards in the $4,000 range. But you know what's been happening lately? The price is falling. All these guys who bought it at that price, you're probably never going to sell it at that price because there are a lot of these things out there. And as more slabs are entering the market, the price is dropping, and people, it's almost like nobody wants to buy raw copies anymore. Everybody wants a slabbed copy. Sometimes it's legit. Like, Cory, you saw the, I think it was Spider-Man #1 with, I can't say his name, Eminem?
Yeah, Stuart Eminem.
Yeah. And I guess it was sold just through his website. So if you didn't catch it, which I didn't, you wouldn't have ordered it. I probably wouldn't have ordered it. Well, I don't know. I may have ordered it. I don't know. It depends on what a real copy costs. But he also shipped it in just himself. He sat every night and he put one in a bag. He put it in an envelope and licked the stamp and mailed it. No, his fulfillment firm, they just shipped it in an envelope. No protection, no cardboard. I would guess 70% of them I know of are damaged. So that means the ones that went 9.8 are going for silly money. But why? Why are even the damaged ones going for silly money? Another thing that's happening, I've been seeing these guys, they're getting their stuff back. CGC has been very, very slow. Suddenly this guy gets back 50 slab Todd McFarlane signatures, Spawns, Incredible Hulk. Oh, what's the one he fought Wolverine in? I don't even remember. Other things. And it just reminds me of a comic show I went to years ago. I think it was Kansas City. And I was going around the corner, and here were these old-time dealers had entire rows of Amazing Spider-Man ones, Fantastic Four #1s. They wouldn't deal on any of them. I wasn't asking. I just would overhear. You know, and the guy's like, well, you got it for like $2,000. Would you go maybe 1,800? Well, no. And I'm like, what's the fucking point of having that many Fantastic Fours if you're not selling them? Yes, you're going to sell one at 2,000 eventually. And yeah, maybe if I was a time traveler, I'd go back. Yeah, I'll give you 2,000 for that. I'm going to tell you, I go for the nice one at 3,000 because Lord knows what that thing's up to now. But it didn't make sense. And it wasn't a philosophy I did when I was doing my shops. I was there to sell the comics, not to show them on display and show you how much better I am than you. But these guys, I just don't get it. Plus, I think the other thing, as far as I know, and I haven't confirmed that this is true now, Todd McFarlane is determined to drive the price of his signature down. He said, I'm going to sign everything. We're going to CGC it. And I think that's his goal in 2023. Again, this is things I've heard. I haven't seen a quote. But again, 50 copies of signed. What are you going to do with them all? How much did you spend to do this? Again, you can do what you want with them. But it doesn't make sense to me. But that's, Cory, how many different speculator markets have we gone through in the time we've known each other?
Oh, geez.
Yeah. I mean.
Here's the thing, though. They'll never be as bad as the black and white boom of the 80s and then the speculator boom of the 90s. The speculator boom in the 90s nearly killed comics. The black and white boom of the 80s killed all but I think 3 or 4 distributors. I mean, distributors were investing in, the radioactive black belt hamsters. and all that stuff.
And Kung Fu Kangaroo.
And when that market collapsed, shops died. But it wasn't so much the fans saying, screw this, because comics kept selling. It was distributors who had, we got 40 cases of these. Yeah, the shops only ordered, 2,000. But that's what happened with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So we're going to order 20 times what the retailers did because they're going to want them. And then we're going to sell them in Comic Buyer's Guide for $20 each. And nobody wanted them.
Yeah. I mean,
Good luck finding Miami mice, but even more luck to find somebody who fucking wants it.
Although we did play the record.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So, anyway, no. Again, the only thing I see CGC useful for, other than my personal comics that I want to keep, it's great if I want to get a Todd McFarlane and get that yellow label, so I know it's a genuine CGC witnessed signature. Although, as I talked about in podcasts past, just because you got a little piece of paper doesn't mean it necessarily is so. I found that out way back when I was in Vegas and sat through something, guys saying, yep, certificate of authenticity doesn't mean anything. Cory, you and I could do certificate of authenticities.
Oh, yeah.
So, but doesn't matter. So it's one of those things that drives me crazy. I mean, I've been looking, I follow along on Facebook. I don't buy as many comics at the moment because one of my goals for 2023 is to get everything in CLZ so I can actually know what I'm missing. So, yeah, if it's 50 cents, I don't mind buying it on the odd chance I may have duplicates, but I do want to finish up my Ultraverse eventually. So, and again, I'm a little bummed. Well, I guess I'm not bummed about the MCBA end of the era. I knew it was coming. Kelly talked to me. He wanted to get the con to 30. What I did find surprising was that, and did I get rid of it? Oh, remember Minnesota Con that we talked about?
Yeah.
The next one, June 2nd and 4th. Apparently, Minnesota Con is pleased to announce that they have 2 new staff members joining the event team, Eric Marshall and Kelly White. Both come to us, and I'm reading this as it was them, with years of show experience working with the Midwest Comic Book Association and the Midwest Comic Book Fans Organization, which, as you and I know, are both the same thing.
Yeah.
So that is really, really cool. I've talked a little bit to Eric. I haven't talked to Kelly about that, but they're going to assist with communication with the comic industry, creator, local vendor community. They'll assist with event floor management at the Minnesota Con. Well, I did mention when it's coming. There's a couple other cons coming up. Not a lot of people have contacted us about stuff. We already talked about the new shop. The Minnesota Toy Posse is doing an after Valentine's sale February 19th in Bloomington at the American Boulevard in the American Legion Hall. The last MCBA MicroCon 3 will be on April 8th. And then MiniCon, of course, April 9th and 7th through the 9th, which will be at the Minnesota Science Fiction Society. Go to mnstf.org/minicon56. And we did talk to Greg Ketter on Free Comic Book or Black Friday, and he said it's the biggest science fiction con I've never heard of in the Twin Cities, which isn't surprising because there's a lot of cons that come flying by that I think I'd be interested in. But the problem is I'm usually working those days. So those are the only 3 I've heard of. Again, Cory mentioned it. You've got a con, you got a shop, you're doing a garage sale con, you got art, you got a sighting of Power Girl cosplay drinking beer. Whoa, how'd that get in there? Let us know because we're all about promotion. And hey, I'm pretty sure Cory and I will talk about it. Did you know we got a TSA got a raise?
Ooh.
Yeah. I'll talk about that in the geeking. But Cory, what are you freaking on?
In Japanese wrestling, 2 longtime performers are having their final matches this week. First is, Joe, you may know, the Great Muta.
Yes. Oh, my.
He is having his final match for Pro Wrestling Noah against Sting. He specifically asked Sting if he would come to Japan to be in his final match. He did have his final series of goodbye matches, including one that WWF let Shinsuke Nakamura take part in. But one that you may not know, but one of the wrestlers in New Japan that I love, Minoru Suzuki, who ran the faction Suzuki-gun and is one of those guys who, when I watch his matches, I wonder if anybody has told him that wrestling's a work. To the point where years ago he had a match where if he lost, he had to shave his head, and they shaved his head really badly. and he still shaves it that way. His matches are always just they're stiff as hell. I've never watched a Suzuki match where at the end of it I thought, oh, those two guys didn't work all that hard. His matches are the ones where afterward you go, boy, I hope everybody's alive. His retirement is at Wrestle Kingdom tonight. Today we're recording this on the 3rd. Wrestle Kingdom starts at 1 a.m. in the morning, Minnesota time on the 4th.
Oh, I'm off tomorrow.
And just two legends of Japanese wrestling calling it a day. After last year, we had Jushin Thunder Liger. Now we're having the Great Muta. Sting is still wrestling, which amazes me, but he did say in a recent interview he knows how his career will end. He also will probably not have any solo matches from here on out because he's 62.
Wow.
Joe, you know how you had your issue with FedEx? I have an issue with FedEx, not as bad as yours.
Oh.
But lately what they've been doing is they've not been delivering the package. You'll get the thing that says, oh, your package is going to be delivered on Friday. And then Friday around noon, oh, we were unable to get to your house.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. My street is already plowed now. As soon as we're done recording, I'm going to go shovel so that deliveries can, come to my door. Yeah, you could get here. I think it's more that the drivers are, or they're given so much stuff that it's, oh my God.
I'll give them that. Well, Mark Myrtle, who does a lot of sales, he used to work FedEx. So maybe next time I see him at a show, I'll ask him what that's. Holy cow. Minneapolis Airport is at a ground stop.
Oh, wow.
They have freezing rain over them right now, which looks like it might even be over you.
Oh, then maybe I won't be shoveling tonight.
Yeah, just be careful if you do. I did shovel earlier. It is heavy. I just do that because I'm not working and I can go, I don't have to stay there till midnight or 2 a.m. when the flights are leaving finally.
Hey, I don't have to leave the house till Thursday night.
I got to leave Thursday afternoon or Thursday at probably 11 to go to work. Maybe 10. I don't want to be late. But yeah, I'm so happy I get to just stay home. Although I did go for Arby's.
A couple of days ago, I had the worst anxiety attack I have had since the St. Cloud convention.
Not the one I was at with you. The Library Con?
No.
You're talking the Lion Con.
Yeah, Lion Con.
Which you've talked about, I believe.
Yeah. And I debilitating anxiety attack. I'm glad I didn't have to work at either job because I could not function. It started Sunday kind of in the evening, but it was very low level until the morning of the 2nd, and it just hit. And I could say, oh, it's because of this, because of this, because of this, because of this. No, it's because my body chemistry is messed up. Because I think a lot of it was also, I've been under so much stress for the past few months. And you could even say, the past couple of years, that I had some time off. I didn't have to do anything. And my body said, good, we have been saving this up for you. To the point where I was just sitting on the couch thinking, I can't do anything right. I'm incapable of functioning as an adult. Never mind all the stuff I do. Never mind the fact that last year I did 200 audios. Between the two jobs, I worked 3,200 and some hours. I covered over 125 wrestling events. That didn't matter. All I could think is I can't do anything. I'm incapable of doing anything right. And it's a chemistry thing. And thankfully, I have medication for what they call PRN, which is, okay, I know you're on regular medication, but this you take when things get bad. Kind of like, Joe, you probably have, your regular medication you take, but then when your arthritis really kicks in, you have a special med you take just for that.
Oxycodone. I'm sorry, what?
So that really threw me off yesterday, and that's kind of why we're recording on a Tuesday, because I couldn't even sit at the desk because I don't know what I'm doing. My thoughts were racing so fast I couldn't keep up. I'm glad that I understand that, because I used to have those a lot, and I didn't understand that that was not normal. Now I understand that's not normal. And I'm getting help for it. I have medication for it. I have been seeing a therapist off and on when stress gets way too high. I see my therapist once a week. So there was that. The last thing I am freaking on, Joe, you know that I am a big fan of Gondwanaland comics.
Yes.
They ran into a problem with Amazon. Now, at their height, they were producing 120 to 130 books a week. And every so often they would get one kicked back. Hey, we don't think this is public domain. You don't have the rights to this. And they would send along the information that they do. Well, he sent in one. They kicked it back. He sent in the proof that it's public domain, but the right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing. So they went, this is a copyright strike. We're getting rid of your books. He had over 7,000 books on Amazon. So he emailed back the person who said that the copyright was fine and said, hey, I just got this notice. They went, oh, we'll take care of it. We'll take care of it. Then he got an email back a little while later from someone different saying, we have reviewed your claim. We're not going to be carrying your stuff anymore. Now you would think, oh, well, that kind of sucks. But it's more than that. They've decided to hold all money for all the books that he sold for the 3 months before that. They removed his entire store to the point where my friend Tommy had put in, basically whenever they were doing a new volume of Help, he had an alert set up, but he hadn't ordered them because he thought, well, I'll wait till there's 2 or 3, and he had them in his cart. They were gone. No notice of what happened. So he is going to be dealing with them through the legal system, which takes a while. And he is set up to do this through Barnes & Noble. However, Barnes & Noble won't allow him to have books unless he has ISBN numbers. And with Amazon holding 3 months worth of the funds that he had made by selling books, basically he was like, oh crap, I don't have any money. So he is slowly building everything back on Barnes & Noble. It does mean that the international sales that Amazon could do for print on demand, Barnes & Noble does not have that. He's looking for a print on demand source in Europe. Otherwise, let's say you ordered 5 Gondwanaland books, your shipping and handling from the US to Germany is $100. That's not going to work. The PDF, if you want to buy PDF, you can still do that. He is still putting out new books, but it was just a whole mess. And if you go to the Gondwanaland Facebook page, he is now going to be putting out a monthly magazine, which is going to be like $15 through Barnes & Noble, $12 through him. But PDF is free. You can just download it for free. There's a link there. It talks about everything that's happened. It has kind of a catalog, and it's got over 250 pages of comics. And it's free. So I'm glad he's getting back on his feet. I hope they're able to get everything with Amazon worked out, because the Amazon prices were cheaper than Barnes & Noble. But I'm thinking I may just buy the lifetime subscription. You can buy a lifetime subscription where he will send you a hard drive with everything they've ever printed. And then every month he sends you a jump drive with all the stuff they printed that month. $300 for a lifetime subscription. You can give your lifetime subscription to somebody else. If the hard drive fails, they'll send a new one. You can put in your will that your lifetime subscription can go to one of your heirs, and they will continue to get it. So I'm thinking with my tax return, I'm probably just going to go ahead and get the lifetime subscription. Joe, what are you geeking on?
A couple things. First of all, I mentioned, crap at the airport. I don't know what's going on at T1 because that's all Delta, but T2, Southwest canceled all their flights because they can't get the planes in. So my buddies there are not going to have to stay till 2 in the morning, although tomorrow will be a tough day because right now we're kind of in a lull. If you look at the radar, because all this dry air from Canada is kind of circling around, that just means round 2 will be fun and all day Wednesday. I mentioned my raise. It's kind of a wibbly wobbly, pricey wicey type thing because I don't really know what it's going to be. All federal employees are getting like a 4.5% raise. It's just something that the government does. And I'm grateful for that because I know there are times, talking to my old partner, Pat, who's in the private industry, he didn't even get a raise. And we're like, when I got a 1% raise, you got nothing. So and this is everybody. This is military. This is TSA. This is the lady counting watermelons on farm trucks. I don't know. If it's government, they get it. Now, TSA itself in the budget has been given authority to not put us on the G scale. The G scale is the much maligned thing that the government loves. Everybody's like, oh, government workers are overpaid. But there's a reason why a lot of these government workers hang around for 20, 30, 40 years because their jobs aren't dependent necessarily on what they do, how they do it, but that they do it. And so you don't get performance, you get it because of longevity. And ideally you do it long enough, you're doing it well. TSA tried doing the paid for performance. What's happened is that your average TSA person is about 30% behind what they would have made had they joined another branch of the government. Why does that matter? Guess who's suffering shortages right now? Yep, all that time TSA spent firing people, like they tried me because of medical malfeasance. All the people that are coming in now and realizing, geez, for $25 an hour, I can go somewhere else and get less BS and not deal with crabby passengers or whatever. Guys like me who have been there 20 years, we're like, got nowhere else to go. Well, actually, I got my retirement, which the countdown clock starts on my birthday, February 6th. 4 more years to go. 4 more years. 4 more years. Hey, I kind of like the sound of that. Anyways, so TSA has been authorized to give everybody a raise upwards of 30%. Does it mean I'm getting 30%? Does it mean I'm going to stay there till I'm 70? Not really. Probably the person who just got hired will get a big 30%. Or someone like a friend of mine who I'm trying to get to do a thing about her podcast so we can advertise it. She'll get 30% because she's been in the same position for 20 years. I, however, have been promoted. I've been demoted. I went through the calculator. I'm getting whack, whack, wow. Yes, that's the noise you hit when you hit bankruptcy on the Wheel of Fortune. TSA is aware of that, but boy, nothing gets people any more anxious. Hey, everybody, we're getting a raise. The budget's been passed. We're not shutting down the government and working for free. Oh, what are we getting? I'll tell you tomorrow. So half freaking, half geeking. Again, it's a bit of a bitch. It should have probably been in freaking. I'm just happy if I get anything at this point. And again, I'm thankful that I have at least a job I can tolerate. And if I keep my mouth shut, and I'm pretty damn sure no one from TSA listens to this here podcast. Although if I say TSA enough, TSA, it might set off one of their terrorist filters, especially since I just said TSA and terrorist, and bomb in the same sentence. So we'll see what's happened. If you don't see me next week, Cory, it's been great working with you. Speaking of fun stuff, I did stop by the Source, and apparently on their Customer Appreciation Day, they knocked down all their clearance books to $1. I can't even tell. It's not as crazy as that Black Friday sale we went to years ago. We walked in and we left with grocery bags full of bucks. I mean, I think I got like $200, maybe $300 in graphic novels that I'm still going through. I did pick up one that caught my attention. Again, as I read them, I'll let you know about it. But this was a novel called Timeless. Gail Carringer, Timeless. Or is Gail Carringer the one who wrote it? Must be her. Gail Carringer wrote it. Timeless, a pastoral protectorate novel. And it basically involves integrating werewolves into London high society, living in a vampire's second best closet, and coping with precocious toddler who is prone to turning supernatural willy-nilly. And then she receives a summon that cannot be ignored. With husband, child, and tonsils in tow, she boards a steamer to cross the Mediterranean to Egypt, which may hold more mysteries than the indomitable Lady Macon can handle. What does the vampire queen of Alexandria Hive really want from her? Why is the Godbreaker plague suddenly expanding? How is Ivy Tonsils suddenly becoming the most popular actress in all of the British Empire? And apparently this is a series, The Pastoral Protectorate. It's a comedy of manners set in Victoria, London, full of werewolves, vampires, whatever. Sounded interesting. I don't mind coming in the last chapter. Kickstarter-wise, I've talked in the past about Geek Girl, which was a comic book series I ran across by Sam Johnson. I initially ordered it from him, and then I lost track because he went to Kickstarter, and next thing I know, he's soliciting for issue 11, and the last one I have is issue 2. And yeah, they have digitals, but I haven't jumped on the digital bandwagon yet. But he did have an offering where he was soliciting Geek Girl Volume 3 on Facebook, and he had Volumes 1 and 2 together. So I was able to catch up real fast. And I believe you can go to his website, his Facebook page. Hang on a second, let me take one of these. Excuse me while I whip this out. Let's see if he actually has a website on the back of his thing. He might even be on Indigo. www.markosia.com. markosia.com. So I've enjoyed the first issues I've read of this, and I'm really, really happy to get the rest. I mentioned I stopped at the Drury Lane up in Grand Marais at 12 Wisconsin Street, right downtown. And I always look for something to buy. And I did buy a book that my daughter was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you picked that. I was going to buy it for you. This is How You Lose the Time War by Max Gladstone. I'm not going to tell you about it, but it just, oh, hell with that. I'll just read the back. In the ashes of a dying world, Red finds a letter marked "Burn before reading." So begins an unlikely correspondence between two rival agents in a war that stretches through the vast reaches of time and space. You already got me right there. And it goes to Red belongs to an agency, a post-singularity techno-opia. Blue belongs to the garden, a single vast consciousness embedded in all organic matter. Their paths are bloody, their futures mutually exclusive. They have nothing in common save that they're the best and they're alone. Now what began as a battlefield boast grows into a dangerous game. One, both red and blue are determined to win, because winning is what you do in a war, isn't it? So I'm just, I can't believe my daughter was freaking like, I can't believe you bought that. It's like, well, I was sitting on its spine, How You Lose the Time War. Anything with time in it, I love. I did buy a book called The Most Important Comic Book on Earth, Stories to Save the World, published by DK. And I was just kind of looking at it. It was expensive because I'm buying it at full price. But then I'm looking, okay, let's see, is it Ricky Jarvis? Warren Pease, Peter Gabriel, Robert Kirkman. There's a name I recognize. Alan Moore, sold. Yoko Ono. And it's basically a graphic novel anthology full of cartoons and, how to do a victory garden and a lot of websites to try to save the earth. It supports Greenpeace, World Land Trust, Wildlife Trust, Born Free Reserva, Rewilding Europe, and Rewild. And just looking at some of the other names, see if I recognize any of them. Jeff Lemire, Brian Azzarello. Oh, speaking of Brian Azzarello, I did do one of the big fun things I did over the holiday, my lovely daughter Dana came back for a week. Her and her husband stayed downtown St. Paul. We visited them for a little bit.
Husband?
Well, they might as well be.
Okay.
I was going to have you edit that, but Dana doesn't listen to the show.
I was going to say, they got married?
Yeah, that would have been a shock. Oh, my heart. They did stay with us. We ended up finding a large air mattress on sale. So it was me and Chris in one room, Holly upstairs when she wasn't with her boyfriend. And then they just stayed on the mat. She got here before that bitter ass cold blizzard wind that froze all of us during Christmas. She left and got to Reno before that snowstorm that's now blowing across us buried Reno. Well, not really. They got 3 inches of snow. Dana says they don't know how to drive in it. And by the next day, it was melting because temperatures are already in the 50s. In the mountains, though, they're still digging out, and the skiing is probably choice. So I was pretty happy that she visited, that she was able to do that. But we went and we ended up going to, well, it was kind of one of the things, we never quite sure when they were going to be there, but one day Dana took off to go see her friend, and I asked Zach, her boyfriend, let's go geeking. He went with me. We went to go grab something to eat, and then we were looking because they were getting together to go to a party, and we had like an hour to go. And I'm like, well, I don't think we can get to the source because it's 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back, and I'm not going to just go to the source for 10 minutes. It's a half price. He was, I'm down for half price. So while I was there, I found volumes 3, 4, and 5 of 100 Bullets hardcover. So I have that now. All of my collection. Brian is, I can't even say the name anymore. Brian Azzarello. And I'm going to look up the artist. Dun, dun, dun. Eduardo Risso. And I'm just flipping through. It looks like he did the whole thing with them. So these are the hardcover books, the whole series in 5 volumes. So I'm real excited to read that now. I was a little worried I might never get them because some of the out-of-print books were really expensive. And then I got another thing. Remember we talked about, is it Z2 Comics?
Yes.
Oh, I got something from them. And I opened the box, and lo and behold, I see the songs of the Illustrated Al, Weird Al Yankovic, with a foreword by Eno Phillips. Unfortunately, I became aware of this after the signed ones were sold out. But they did give me I guess it's like a mat that you would put on your turntable. So it sits down there, so your records as they drop or you put them on aren't being scratched. And I also got a Weird Al Yankovic illustrated collector cards, which I guess everything's in the pack. 10 pictures, 1 sticker, 1 lifetime of enjoyment. So I got that from Z2. And I can't wait to look at the previews because, first of all, I follow Z2 on their Facebook page and I follow them online because they will announce things. And if it's the right creators, or I should say musicians in this case, I will probably go for the deluxe hardcover signed set. And I would have done that with Weird Al, but Weird Al, I'm coming for you to autograph my book. Let's see, what other goodies? Oh, I mentioned I did buy something on the eBays, and I don't know how in blazes I missed it, but there was a Batman Superman's World Finest that had Paul McCartney on the cover singing with Superman. And I have a big Beatles collection. I bought it secondhand, so I paid a little bit more for it, and I went with a near mint one. But that's all I bought on the eBays. I've been just kind of keeping it mellow, mainly because everything seems to be going slabbed. I'm not big into that. TV wise, I've watched Elton John Live, which is on Disney Plus, which was his farewell tour from Dodger Stadium. I years ago got to see Elton John live. Guy sits down and for 3 hours sings. Just amazing. My wife got to see Elton John when he came through the Twin Cities on his final farewell tour and loved it. And what's neat on the Elton John show is it was originally live, so you could have watched it live, and I didn't because I wasn't around, and Chris had just seen it. But we did watch it, and it starts with a countdown. It starts with interviews, and it's got phenomenal camera angles because you can actually see his face. He had some of his old singers. I'm trying to think of her name. Don't go breaking my heart.
Kiki D.
Thank you. She was on there, which was fun. They re-sang that. He brought out his family. He brought out his singing partner. They had a quick thing. What do you miss about touring? And Elton's like, nothing. They interviewed the fans coming in. It was a blast. Part of the fun was that we actually got our soundbar working again. I just, we had let it sit for a month unplugged, plugged it in. It works. We did start our tradition of going to $5 movie night. We did it the week before Christmas because the week of Christmas, they don't do $5 movies. The first one we saw was Spirited, which I guess is an Apple TV Plus original film. It stars Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell. And I went into it just knowing that it's a musical. They can sing. And I guess it's based on, and this might be a spoiler, might not, because this is how they advertise it, Charles Dickens' heartwarming tale of a Scrooge visited by four ghosts on Christmas Eve, but funnier. And when you got Will Ferrell, Ryan Reynolds, and Octavia Spencer with huge musical numbers, okay, maybe they're asking a lot, but I enjoyed the living bejesus out of it. This one could easily become a yearly film to watch. And I saw it in the theater for $5. I still don't have Apple TV, but Apple TV, you're doing good. I'm almost there. I did have to laugh because I did see that Robert Garcia, who's a newcomer to Congress, will be sworn on a copy of Superman #1.
Yes.
Which I thought was brilliant and I absolutely loved. And Cory, more good news. We are still voting you Speaker of Solitaire Rose podcast. You've won the vote the first time.
Oh, good.
Yes. And that's it for me. Cory, what you geeking on?
I have just a few things here. Wrestle Kingdom is tonight. That's New Japan Pro Wrestling's version of WrestleMania. It's been a 2-night show the past few years. This year it's just a 1-night show. But no, I am not getting up at 1 a.m. to watch it. But I will be watching it Saturday. I love New Japan Pro Wrestling. It is my favorite promotion. They treat it like a sport. I'm not going to say it's kayfabe, but they take it seriously. Yes, there are some goofy characters. Silly stuff happens. But when a heel cheats, it's still a big deal. The audience still boos when the heel cheats. The announcers are still upset about the fact that a heel cheats rather than, okay. It's a very stiff style. It's based on mixed martial arts. And one of the things about Japanese wrestling is the audience, like the U.S. audience, has been smartened up to the business. But they still kind of believe that, okay, yes, predetermined, they practice the moves, they go to school to learn this, but in order to win, you have to have the fighting spirit. So it's an odd way of looking at it, and every year it's just a spectacular show for wrestling. They don't have a lot of, they have promos, but not a lot of them. And they rarely have promos in the ring. It's all backstage, when they're being interviewed. Either, after a match, the victor will come and they will talk to the press, and that's kind of where they do their promos. It's a different presentation style. It's a more serious presentation style. I absolutely love New Japan. I'm glad I had some time over the holidays to kind of get back into it because I haven't had time to watch it in a while. Next up, the Moon Knight comic. I have not talked about it in a long time, but the new Moon Knight comic is so damn good. Let me pull up the recent issue so I can get you the creative. Moon Knight has his section of New York City, and he protects it. The avatar of Kashnu, he protects travelers in the night. And they have built up that he's not the only person who does this. They've built up that they've built a lot of stuff up around it. They've brought vampires in because vampires are night creatures, and not all of them are his opponents. Some of them he is working with against basically vampires who are far worse. The writer is Jed MacKay, and they do have a series of different artists, but Jed MacKay is the one who's been writing it. Phenomenal, phenomenal book. Doesn't cross over a lot into other books, but they had Tigra appear. And for the first time in ages, Tigra was taken seriously. Most of the time, and it's ever since Jim Shooter got his hands on her, where it's, oh yeah, she acts like a cat, and she purrs and she eats mice and blah 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 blah. No, she's a werewolf, and because of what Shooter did when she was in the Avengers, no one has treated that character seriously for decades. And in 2 issues, Moon Knight made her scary again. Made her interesting, made her scary. It was just boom, that quick. And that's one thing I like about what Marvel does now. They're not afraid to go, you know what? We've been using this character wrong. Let's go back to the roots and just ignore all the shitty stuff. The other book that I've really enjoyed lately is Creepshow. Creepshow is a horror anthology, just like the movie and the TV series. It's a horror anthology coming out from Image. It is as close to an EC comic as you're going to get nowadays. They're not getting... One of the things that made EC great was the fact that they had a murderer's row. The best people working in comics. You're not going to get that on a horror anthology anymore, but it's a really good horror anthology. The people behind it work really hard to get a good twist ending. There's usually 2 stories to an issue, and when the trade paperback comes out, I'll be recommending it because I'm absolutely loving this. And then the last thing I am geeking on the last day of the year, the 31st at noon, the FedEx guy who said that he couldn't get to my house on the 30th dropped off my box day. Now, I also got a package from eBay where the local Barnes & Noble had sold out of the Mad. Basically, they're doing a special Mad magazine for Barnes & Noble every 2 months. So I have issue 1, issue 2, and issue 4. There was no issue 3 because they said, oh, the special 70th anniversary issue of Mad is issue 3. Huh? But it's a $10 square bound, like the old Mad supersize, except it's just at Barnes & Noble. And since Barnes & Noble sold out, I ordered it from them. And, reprints the good stuff. So I got that with Mad 70th anniversary issue. And then on box day, listen to this killer lineup. Batman Catwoman hardcover, the end of the Tom King Batman story. Books of Magic Omnibus Volume 3. The first 2 did the Vertigo series. These are the series that came after the Books of Magic, like during wartime and all the mini-series. Captain Marvel by Sally Dudeconic Omnibus. Previews, of course. The book that I spent way too much time reading on New Year's Day. House of Mystery, the Bronze Age hardcover Omnibus Volume 3. which reprints all the 100-pagers and the first batch of the dollar comics, which were 80-pagers, none of which I've ever read. Knights of the Dinner Table, $2.99. Maison Ikkoku, number 10. And Yashima, Princess Half Demon, graphic novel number 2, which is a sequel to Takahashi's Inuyasha. So I spent a lot of time on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day just reading new comics. And what a great way to open up the year. Believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about funny books for over an hour and a half.
I know, and I didn't even get it. This is like the 5th time I forgot. Go back and look at the comic book strips from newspapers on November 26th. Most of them were about Charles Schultz. I've got a couple local papers here, and you go to Go Comics. Just a fantastic read. And I hope they do it in a book. You can remember when they did that years ago, where on Thanksgiving, all the comic strips had mentioned something to do with world hunger. Some were lame, some were good. This was so beautiful, and I just hope somebody does a book of it.
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
I was told watermelons can't get married. No one said they can elope. Wow, that was bad. Cory, let me do it. All right, for the first time this year, Cory, hit my music.